Hi, my name is Karen A. here in Jerusalem, Israel, and I'm your proud host of the Afro-Euro Reco12 podcast. Reco12 is a family of recovery resources that helps addicts all addictions, all afflictions. Oh, and by the way, newsflash, I think this is going to be our brand new time. We were doing Wednesdays at 9 a.m. That's not working for me with my work schedule, so I think we're going to do Friday, which is the beginning of the weekend here in Israel. So hopefully if any of you are recovered and want to speak here, you can message me. I'll put my number in the chat. If you have a great sponsor who should be sharing their experience, strength, and hope here, hook me up with them. Reco12, the website, reco12.com, has tremendous recovery resources, whether you're AA, CA, a workaholic, an anorexic, a bulimic, a codependent, a sex and love addict, and you could add anything you want to that list, because we generally here work the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, or the workbook, the big book workbook, 12 steps in 4 hours, and have found recovery through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, hopefully practicing these principles in all our affairs, applying this beautiful work and this beautiful solution to any addictions, afflictions, ailments, pains, you name it. You could check out recorded podcasts. If you'd like to share, you could record a clip of yourself with the SpeakPipe widget on the Reco12 website. And we invite you to join us weekly here or with Justin B., Nikki M., Roundtable, Noodle It Out with Nikki, etc., etc. If you would like to pay your seventh tradition and help support the cost of this Zoom and other technical costs, you could do so at reco12.com/support. And we accept PayPal and Venmo. We'll be having our brother, Ollie D, share for about 20 minutes. It's not super strict, so don't worry if you have something more to say. I'm pretty relaxed here. He'll share his experience, strength, and hope, the fellowship, the recovery journey that he's been through. And I'm going to ask you guys to type your questions in the chat. You can do it while he's speaking, but we'll take the questions one by one at the end. If you want to jot them down or write them later, that's cool too. Okay, so about 20 minutes of sharing, Q&A at the end, and then he'll pray us out. Ollie D, introduce yourself and take it away.
Thank you so much, Karen. I'll just start my timer. I have a tendency to get really into this stuff and you know, go over the time. But yeah, so my name's Ollie. I'm a very grateful, recovered drug addict and an alcoholic. I'm a member of Cocaine Anonymous here in the UK. You know, it still blows my mind that people invite me to places and to speak, because you know, that really wasn't the case before I came into this amazing beautiful program that you know I put this stuff before everything else, because without this, you know, I'll have nothing. Yeah, really good to be here. If there's anyone new, anyone struggling, you know, you've kind of landed on gold with this stuff. It's truly a remarkable program, and you know, I'm having an amazing experience with it. So I'm going to be talking about this is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God because it didn't work. So this is on page 62. This is the part of the book where we look at step 3, which is where I make this decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, as I understand Him, or probably don't understand Him when I first go through step 3. But before I start talking about that, I'll talk about the first two steps and my kind of experience around it. You know, step 1. I used to say that step 1 is an education in what I suffer with, and while that's true, really step 1, I need to be able to relate my experiences in life, when I was drinking and using. Of course, you know, I'm very aware that this meeting is all afflictions, whether it's, you know, overeating, gambling, you know, sex, love, etc., etc. You know, and I need to relate step one, those chapters in the book, to my own experience, but also, you know, I'll keep it simple and brief. So what did step one look like to me? You know, this utter inability, no matter how great the need or necessity to not drink or use. You know, if we look at that first part of step one, admitted we were powerless over anything. You know, there's two parts. You know, the first part we look at, and we look at the physical aspect of the disease. You know, the fact that I put one of anything in, and a lot of the time, not all the time. You know, there were times where I was able to control my drinking and using, but you know, most of the time, you know, I would put one of something in my body, and I have this abnormal reaction to it, and I just can't stop. You know, I don't know when that's going to end. And that really was my experience. Certainly towards the end of my drinking and using, those really dark days of you know, complete isolation. You know, my life was incredibly small. You know, so that's the physical aspect, and you know, it's really important that we understand that physical aspect of the disease will never leave me. It's always going to be there. I cannot treat that. You know. But more importantly, and the big book tells me that the main problem centers in my mind with this mental obsession, this thought above all else, to use drink or drugs or whatever your affliction may be. And you know, it's kind of one of those. So I'll just pause. I got a little bit lost there. Yeah, so thought above all else. You know, my mind always takes me back to the thing that's killing me, you know, and that's going to kill me, and it's causing me so much pain and misery and you know, conflict in my life, and you know, physical harm to all the people around me, you know. You know, the love of my family, you know, the love of my ex-girlfriends, you know, my mum pleading with me, you know, not understanding why I keep picking up. You know, that the book talks about frothy emotional appeal. You know, it holds no weight. These things should hold weight to me. They should be a sufficient reason for me to you know, moderate or stop. But I can't. You know, it pops into my head. And you know, even, you know, things like jobs. You know, I was terrible at keeping the job down, because you know, I'd start off really enthusiastic, you know, and I'd be like, you know what, I'm not going to ruin this opportunity. It's a great opportunity. You know, I'd really impress them. But you know, as soon as I got that first pay packet, you know, my mind's telling me, you know what, you can go out, you can just have a couple of drinks. And of course, that as soon as I put one in, that physical allergy is set off, isn't it? And very quickly, you know, that job would be lost. So then, you know, the third part is the fact that my life has become unmanageable. And what that looked like to me is that I put drinking drugs down for any period of time. And I start to feel worse. You know, of course, there was times that I was really miserable when I was drinking and using, but when I put it down, I feel even worse. You know, life becomes really painful. It's a struggle. You know, I feel really uncomfortable in my skin. You you know, I'm falling out with everyone. No one wants to be around me because I'm a nightmare to be around in that kind of state. And you know, I feel useless. I'm desperately unhappy. I've got that beast of misery and depression that's chasing me, and it always catches up with me. And of course, when I feel like that, but that's when that mental obsession starts to kick in. It's like, you know what, just go and have a couple of something just to take the edge off. It'll be different this time. You know, just don't do this. Maybe don't use that drug. You know, maybe you've not found the right combination of substances, and I try the old game again, and of course it ends in disaster, and I'm caught in this step one cycle, and I was caught in it for a very long time, and you know those kind of the earlier days in my 20s, you know, that spiritual sickness that I just talked about. You know, it was definitely there, but it maybe wasn't as intense. It kind of got more and more intense as time went on. So, you know, if lack of power is my dilemma, and you know, the only promise of step one is that I am going to drink and use again off my own power. You know, and my history really tells me that. It's really important that I know that. So if, you know, if lack of power is my dilemma, then, you know, I need a new power, a new direction in my life. And step two, you know, it was put really simply to me. Step two, it was I was in this amazing treatment center where they use the big book and the big book only. They take you through the 12 steps. Incredible place. It was put to me very early on that, you know, so all the people that are living spiritual lives, you know, all the people in the fellowship, the people in the treatment center, people that have walked before me for thousands of years, you know, religious people, people living other spiritual lives, who are living lives that are productive, that they're, you know, they have peace of mind, that they're happy, you know, they appear to have really good, you know, moral codes, etc. So all those people, they're wrong, and you, where my life has pretty much been a total disaster, to be quite honest, I'm right, and all those people are wrong. You know, and I couldn't really argue with that, you know. So, you know, and step two, it's, you know, it doesn't say I go through step two in the big book and I immediately believe in God and everything's great. It's just came to believe, you know, it's a process. Like all the rest of the steps, it's the steps aren't there to be intellectualized. They're there to be experienced. Just like God. God is an experience. So certainly the first time going through step two, it was just a tiny bit of willingness that, you know what, my way hasn't worked. I'm not in charge. You know, my mum used to say to me, the world. My mum's on this meeting as well. Beautiful, amazing, really fills my heart with so much joy and happiness. You know, she used to say to me that, Ollie, the world doesn't revolve around you, and I must have subconsciously thought, you know what, challenge accepted, because I really think it does. And of course, it got me nowhere. So it really was just a little bit of willingness to believe that there's something bigger, that there's forces that are far more powerful than me. Now I was a bit confused about whether it's this external thing, God's this external thing, but then I heard people saying that, you know, the idea of God's deep down within me, and I definitely found that a bit confusing, and maybe was searching for God, and you know, asking other people what their conception was, and none of that was useful. You know, it's just like just have a little seed of willingness to believe, and that's enough. You know, that's enough. So that brings us to step three. I'm going to use the book because, you know, the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous is all I really know, and you know, and that's how I sponsor out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. So yeah. So first of all, I have to quit playing God. So how did playing God kind of show up in my life? Thinking back to being a child, way before I picked up drink or drugs. I was definitely playing God, but of course had absolutely no idea. So I remember having really intense kind of friendships. My relationship with my mom. I mean, she was a single parent for quite a long time. Um, so we had this really close bond. But I definitely had this fear of abandonment. I was I was really really dishonest. I lied to create a life about myself that maybe didn't exist. I lied to get myself out of trouble. I lied to get other people in trouble. I lied to be liked. Um, I certainly remember being quite controlling in my relationships. Um, and having a real issue when people didn't do what I thought that they should be doing. So from a very early age, I had this issue where I think I know what people should be doing and what's good for them and how they should be thinking. You know, I used to get in arguments a lot around pushing my kind of opinions and values on people. And again, if you don't agree with what I'm saying and the way that I think, there's an issue. But like Young said on a meeting the other day, thank God that everyone doesn't think and behave like me, because the world would be a pretty messed up place. So those traits were kind of deep down within me from quite an early age, and of course they kind of followed through my adolescence as I picked up drink and drugs. You know, I was in constant collision with with other people. You know, that bit in the book where it talks about being the actor trying to run the whole show. That was so me. It's such an important part of the big book. And maybe that second part of step one. Maybe my life is unmanageable because I've been trying to manage my life. I've been trying to exert my will in all these areas, and it's caused me so much pain and suffering and destroyed my relationships. And the more I tried in life, the kind of smaller it got. And as as I went through my 20s and causing so much harm in relationships and losing jobs, and but life kind of got narrower and narrower. But as that happened, I'm still trying to kind of fit the world to my liking, so that I'm happy and I'm okay. And of course, it never works out like that. And the more that I'm kind of resistant to life and people, the the more pain I'm in. And the more pain I'm in, the more I want to drink and use. And it's that kind of self-fulfilling prophecy of this issue of playing God. Um, so in my book it says this is the how and the why of it. So I circled this is how, and put a little arrow down to quit playing God, and why, because it didn't work. And my history really kind of the book says, so our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. And how do I find that out? It's really when I take inventory in step 4. It's quite a bitter pill to swallow. Um, that actually I'm the problem, because I really came into this program thinking it was everyone else that was the issue, and I wasn't, and I was a real victim. I really played the victim. Um, self-pity was a great tool of manipulation. If I could make you feel sorry for me, then that's I thought that that was a good thing, you know, and I did that with everyone in my life. And you know, I lied about things that I'm still, you know, I'm certainly not proud of. That was all a tool to manipulate people and make them feel sorry for me. Because if you're feeling sorry for me, you're probably going to do what, you know, more of what I want you to do. You know, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity. You know, life was all about what I could take from it, and nothing. I had a complete inability to contribute to life. So the book tells me, you know, selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. So, you know, it's quite simple, really. I need to be selfless, and I need to be other-centered or God-centered. You know, from very early on, from leaving, I mean, in treatment, you know, something amazing happened in that treatment center where this unity came together. You know, there was people who'd only been in there for a few days, and then there's someone new coming in. You know, and those people that have been in for a few days are helping those people that have just come in. And you know, when you're all put together and you're all really sick, of course there's a bit of conflict, but that place worked far better than it should have done. And why was that? Because we were taking our first tentative steps towards God, to getting this connection to this power, you know, the power of love, of generosity, of giving, you know, of selfless acts of kindness, not, you know, with no expectation for anything back. So you know, from very early on, it was about being selfless and being helpful to my fellows, to God's other children. But from leaving treatment, you know, I got home group, and I got some service, and service is so important, because you know, those early days of leaving treatment, life was really scary because I've been locked away for quite a long time. And I was still really, you know, I was still selfish. Of course I was. I was still in an unrecovered state. But it's so important that I got this commitment, and I turned up no matter what, and I took responsibility, because you know, I've come from a place of not being able to take any responsibility in my life. So it's really important. And again, I'm being of service. I'm doing God's work. That's flown by that. I'm doing God's work, and you know, I'm giving of myself, and you know, this whole program, the more I give, the more I receive. Is that selfish? I don't know. I don't know. So you know, the step 3 is, it's all about turning away from my old life. And when I'm sponsoring, you know, and I take people through step 3, I tell them, really think about this decision, because you've got your old way of life, and you've got this new way of life, you know, in its most simple form. Step 3 is, am I willing to go through with the rest of the work? Am I willing to get in a routine of prayer and meditation? You know, am I dedicated to the rest of the program? Do I really want this new way of life that I see in other people? Do I want this connection with God that I see working through and with, you know, so many people in the fellowship and outside of the fellowship as well, you know? And they're sat there and they're nodding and they're going, yeah, definitely, yeah, brilliant. You know, I have found that in the relatively short period of time that I've been in this fellowship, that you know, we've become masters of steps 1 to 3, because so many go off into the ether around step 4. And you know, I used to find that really frustrating, but you know, I have to remember that, you know, God has a plan for these people. I'm not in charge. You know, if I'm trying to force someone through the work when they're not willing, then that's my self-will at play, isn't it? I'm not aligned with God's will. God has a plan for those people. You know, I try my best not to chase them. I leave them be. And actually, recently, something that I found really useful is kind of understanding that every time I do a bit of step work with someone, you know, there's a really good chance that I'm not going to hear from them again. And that's fine. And you know, some of them come back, some of them don't. And you know, I don't get as kind of upset and frustrated about that. You know, and I need God through the rest of the program. You know, I need God by my side when I'm making my amends. You know, I need God when I'm, you know, God comes through the pen when I'm writing inventory. You know, God is there when I share that with my spiritual advisor, my sponsor. You know, 6 and 7, like the integral part of the program. You know, that those defects that I identify, and they become really uncomfortable and like objectionable to me. But am I willing for God to remove those things, or at least help me with those, turn the dial down on my selfishness, my fear, my, you know, my self-pity, all those areas of self that you know cause me pain, you know. And of course, step 3, it isn't just a one-time deal. It's, you know, it's a decision I make every day, all throughout the day. But of course, you know, not every day. I've kind of coined this term, spiritual narcolepsy, where I'm kind of awake and 1 minute in the day, and then something happens, and I'm turning away from God, and I'm kind of like this. Some days it really is like that. But from continuing with the rest of the program, you know, prayer and meditation, seeking God, all stems from this decision I make in step 3. You know, my life is, something's happened where you know my heart is open. I have the ability to love today. You know, I have a lot more warmth in my heart. You know, I'm softer, I'm kinder, I'm more patient, I'm more tolerant of other people. But I'm certainly not perfect. You know, those things, of course, they crop up, and that's why I need God so much. You know, 6 and 7 shows me that, doesn't it? It's like, wow, I really need God, and you know, some remarkable things have happened in you know, 10, nearly 11 months that I've been in this program. I know I haven't got long, but you know, I see God in other people more than I do myself. And you know, I do a bit of volunteer work, and I was there with these 2 ladies, and they'd been really close when they were younger. And then they'd kind of gone their separate ways. One of them had moved to France, the other one had stayed in Sunderland, and they'd not seen each other for 24 years. And then the lady that moved to France, her husband died, and she came back, and these 2 people were brought back together after 24 years. I mean, that God brought those people back together, and you know what? It absolutely. I found myself getting really emotional and like so full of kind of wonder that had happened. You know, and there's so many other demonstrations of God, of course, in the fellowship of people being dragged from, you know, the gates of, maybe dragged isn't a very nice way to put it, you know, taken from the gates of hell, or pulled, whatever the big book says, you know, from the gates of hell, and you know, rocketed into this incredible way of living that just keeps on getting better and better. It really does. But you know, that's as long as I stay plugged in, and I keep turning to God throughout the day. You know, it's been an absolute pleasure sharing. I kind of got into my flow then. I was dead nervous at the start, but you know, I'm nervous because I really care about this stuff. I really do, and it's been a great experience. And you know, I've never been recorded, and this is all a new experience. But this is what life is about now. You know, it's about having these experiences, maybe, you know, facing fear, and walking through fear, and outgrowing fear. yeah, thank you. I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for listening.
Wow, Ollie D, thank you so much, and you're invited back. What can I say? Thank you for sharing with us so openly and honestly. I'm sure a lot of you online will agree with me. There's nothing more beautiful than a vulnerable, recovered man. It's just so special to hear you share and to hear you be out of your many of us around here, been a lot of therapy, a lot of self-help, a lot of meditation. It's like
Karen, your internet connection's really bad.
Oh, thank you. Now that I'm on video or now? Hold on, I'll move. Is this any better?
That's better with that camera on. Yeah.
Is this better now?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
So glad you told me. Okay. Let's try now. Can I keep my camera on, or is it patchy?
No, that's perfect now.
Okay, sorry about that. So I'm saying it's amazing. Most of us have done a lot of therapy, a lot of self-help, different religious practices, spiritual practices, seminars, webinars, books, and something about this work that gets us humble, seeing the beauty in ourselves, that of course enabled us to see the godliness in others. And I love what you said about that. There's so many great things you said. So first, if anyone has a question, I'm going to ask you to write it up in the chat. I have a few questions for you. In the meantime, Ollie, what was your moment at step one? A lot of times we take people through the big book or the workbook, and sometimes the word addict is hard to swallow, maybe less so with substances. Certainly the people like food addicts or people addictions have, a little bit of a harder time with that word. Although I have had sex addicts who are, sleeping with multiple partners daily who had trouble with that word. When did you really concede to your innermost self that you were an addict? When did you wave the white flag of surrender?
Great. Yeah, great question. I thought I'd fully conceded to my innermost self that I was an addict, in my first day in treatment. But referring back to step three, I made a lot of mistakes in my first day in treatment. I made a decision based on self, which placed me in a position to be hurt, and I caused that person a lot of harm. But if I truly believed that my life depended on this program of action, I wouldn't have made that decision. So I did go back out, and it was incredibly painful, and something happened in that quite short period of time where I was drinking and using again, where something deep down within my being, my soul kind of broke. I was in so much pain, but I was speaking to someone about it the other day, and God was in that moment. God spoke to me. It's like, you cannot do this anymore. Something. So that was the moment that I fully conceded to my innermost self that I was done. I was really done with it, and thank God for that moment. Thank God. I'm so pleased that I experienced that, because it rocketed me into action, and in my second period of treatment. Yeah, thanks.
This is so cool. First of all, I have the chills from everything you're saying. And if anybody's listening closely and knows their big book, what Ollie experienced and what he's saying is like word for word what the big book tells us. Or if you work the workbook like myself, of those who came back, a great amount of them recovered. I also went on a first go through the 12 steps through OA, and I was doing great, and I was in the fourth dimension, and slowly my people issues started cropping up, and then I got remarried, and then that was a disaster, and then you left, and like Ollie, I was in a lot of pain. I was given the gift of a lot of pain, and it was like nothing else is working. So if this is your first rodeo, or if you feel like you can't get this, or you can't get through step 4, get through step 4 quickly, first of all. He mentioned that as well, Ollie, that people fall off through that. Most people will not make it. But the good news is if you've been through it once, you quote unquote failed, come back again. This program is deep. It works. The reason people come back is because they realize that there was some good stuff in there. There were some good nuggets in there. And that thing, I don't know what it was and who those weird people were and who those weird meeting formats were, but it worked, right? It works. It really does. So I also had like a big comeback some 9 years after the first time I went through the steps. So even if you messed up and you've been through sponsors and you had a controlling sponsor and you dumped a sponsor and a sponsor dumped you, come back. The big book tells us statistically that people make it, and 2/3 of those who work with others make it. We can see to our innermost self that we're addicts, and then we get through this and we work with others. I just had a sponsee ask me, was it yesterday? Maybe it was this morning when I spoke to her. She's saying, like, people say that they're so happy about, the moment that rather be like everyone else. And so I'm curious to know if you relate to that, because you're saying you're so grateful for that moment. And I'm grateful for my moment too, because I want to be living the way I am, but sure is a lot of pain along the way, a lot of suffering.
I missed the last bit of what you said. Your internet broke.
I'm saying, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Like you said that you're so grateful that for that moment, for that deep sadness. Like a lot of people struggle with that too. Like, why should I be happy that I'm so messed up?
Yeah, I get that, and early days, of course, we're in a terrific amount of pain. We've been through a lot of suffering, but it's really through my brokenness that I'm able to accept spiritual help. If I'm at that jumping off point where, I desperately don't want to drink and use anymore, but I desperately have to. That horrible place of like, well, I'm all out of options. I tried everything else like that. I think like you said earlier, I tried psychiatry. I tried drug and alcohol services who are just trying their best. I have no opinion on that, but it didn't work for me. I tried going in the gym. I tried everything. So, really, you're kind of backed into a corner, and it's like, well, I've got nowhere to go apart from to God, and by going through the process of, step 4 and 5 and 8 and 9, making my amends, I clear the wreckage of my past, I have this spiritual awakening where my perception and my reaction to life is completely changed, but my deepest, darkest moments and all those really traumatic experiences that I've had become my greatest gifts to other people when I sponsor other people. When I'm doing a step 5, like one of the things I say the most is, yeah, me too. I did that. I thought like that. I felt like that.
Yeah, I'm having that now with a sponsor too. It's like, yep, I stuck around in negative relationships. I stuck around for abuse and mistreatment. I did that. I don't do that today. There is a solution. We could say that our dark past becomes our greatest asset, right? This man is talking big book. He's talking Big Book Live in 3D and 4D as the Big Book says. He's been rocketed into the fourth dimension. I know we have some questions in the chat. I do want you, though, because people do not talk about it enough. They do a little bit on Reco12. Talk about sponsoring others. Because again, most people don't make it. You referenced that. And I love that because that was a helpful switch for me to realize if I'm on the phone with a newcomer, 8 or 9 times out of 10, like they're not going to follow through. They're going to fall off at step 4. The 12 steps are awesome and everyone should do them, but not everybody is really an addict, or not everyone will concede to their innermost selves that they're an addict. Not everybody's honest, some people are arrogant, whatever. Some people just want to philosophize or want free therapy. And we grow in effectiveness, right? We know how to sniff that out as we go along, who's for real, who's not. Talk about working with others, how that has helped you, and how you've gotten better at that, and how that's part of your program.
Yeah, thank you. If I want to get close to God, I really need to spend some time with his children, and to give away what was so freely given to me. My early experiences with sponsorship. The first couple of lads that I took through the work, I took them all the way through, and they recovered, and that was that was a great experience. But also it was a bit of a curse because I thought, I'm pretty good at this, and from then, the next 3 or 4 went back out, and that was probably more painful because I was putting expectations on those people and comparing them to the first 2 that I'd sponsored, and it's all equaled out, in the kind of numbers game. And yeah, of course, most people don't make it. Does that kind of deter me from sponsorship? Absolutely not. In fact, it kind of has the opposite effect. I'm seeking more and more people that I can help. My style of sponsorship, I'm not there to make decisions for them, because if I'm reliant on my sponsor for all of my life decisions, I'm relying on human power. And of course, human power fails us. And I'm, my decision making isn't always going to be, spot on, is it? So I really encourage my sponsees to rely on God. What would God do? How would God want you in this situation? I'm pretty hands off. I don't chase. The big book tells me not to chase my sponsees. I don't insist that they ring me every day. I recommend that they keep in close contact, but I can either be a sponsor in name, and that's fine, or they can use me as a sponsor, and I know that I'm their sponsor. But it's it really is that's sponsorship is where my spiritual awakening continues. I become more and more awake every time taking someone through the steps. Step 1, I love going through step 1 because they say things that just jump out to me. The book starts coming alive again. It's like I'll reread something and I'm like, oh yeah, God, I've never even thought of it like that. It just, this book is a treasure map, but I need other people's perception of it, and a fresh pair of eyes on it, because it keeps coming alive to me. It really is one of the parts of the program that it is enjoyable, but I've had many challenges as well. That there maybe is a slightly, I don't want to say dark side, but maybe there is. I've had to have difficult conversations. I've had sponsees that just haven't been able to get honest, and unfortunately, I have to end that relationship if it's a continual thing. And lastly, I make sure, instead of criticizing someone, I'll say things like, look, I found it really hard to get honest when I was first in the program. I always relate it back to myself. If I'm pointing the finger at them, it's not gonna come across good, and it's probably gonna harm them. Yeah, that's all I've got to say on that.
Okay, great. You want to read some of the questions in the chat? That is very helpful.
Okay, so Melissa has asked, how has your relationship with your higher power deepened over your 11 months of recovery? Has it deepened? I think, you know, when I'm looking at step 11, which is where, you know, it tells me it's where I kind of seek God through prayer and meditation. You know, to begin with, it was quite mechanical. It was I was kind of just doing it because I was told to, and it's what other people did. But over time, you know, I've kind of expanded my prayer and meditation quite recently. Actually, you know, I've started some two-way prayer, some written two-way prayer where it's really simple. You know, I ask God one question, and then God comes through the pen, just like in a step 4 when I'm writing inventory. But I really, you know, again, like sponsorship. I see demonstrations of God in people, you know, rebuilding their lives. You know, something happened certainly after I'd done a step 4 and 5. You know, the world started to look very different. I start to see, you know, really simple little things like people doing good deeds for other people. You know, I start to notice those things. I was completely blind to those things. You know, nature. I start to have these moments where you know I'd be down because I live really near the beach, which is amazing. And I just look out to sea, and I just like get these moments of like awe and wonder, and like how incredible life is. And you know, I definitely the more I put into this stuff and the kind of you know, the longer that I work with other people and the more to, you know, carrying the message, things like that, you know, that's how it deepens. And you know, it's like any relationship, you know, if I launch myself into a new relationship with a girl, let's say, to begin with, it's a bit awkward. I don't really know that person. You know, it's a bit like, oh, you know, we don't know anything about each other, but over time, the more I communicate with that person, the deeper understanding I kind of create with them, and that's exactly the same with God. Oh, Sue, my mum, what character defect has caused you the most problems, and how has God used this for growth? Definitely my judgment, my kind of criticism. Again, this all comes back to step 3, doesn't it? My judgment, my you know, criticizing people because they don't have the same program as me. You know, they're not in the same fellowship as me. You know, judgment about you know, for a long time I've been quite judgmental about people doing gratitude lists. But you know, if I personally I've never been asked to do one this time around. But you know, who am I to say that you shouldn't be doing a gratitude list? If you find that useful and it's of benefit to you, then crack on. You know, I am not an authority on recovery, even though sometimes I believe I do. But if I'm judging other people, I'm in pain, and I'm not looking at myself. It's just another area where I think I know best. I think I know what people should be doing. A step 3 problem. Just like all my problems in life today, all come down to this decision in step 3. And how has God used this for growth? Because I feel the pain. It's when I'm judgmental, I feel it inside, and it doesn't feel right. So the next time that you know that I find myself being judgmental, I'm able to ask God to remove that from me. And the more I continue to do that, the less and less judgmental I become.
Okay, do we have any other questions in here? Anyone else want to ask a question? Ollie D, will you put your number in the chat so if people want to reach out to you privately, they can do so?
No problem.
Mhm. Okay, I'll leave us with one more question. What's your message today for the newcomer?
My
Who's still
message
suffering?
for the newcomer is welcome home. You know, as I said at the start of the meeting, you've landed on something incredible here. You know, come all the way in, get involved. You know, get a sponsor, and I really highly recommend getting through the work quickly because my desperation and my willingness. You know, I have a short window of opportunity where I'm desperate enough to you know launch myself into this program of action. So you know, and find a sponsor who's armed with the facts about themselves and about the program, and really just come in and sit down and get involved and you know the book talks about you know doing this stuff with the desperation of a drowning man. And if you knew and you started going through the work and you're kind of stalling on your step work, you know, is ask yourself the question: Are you fighting with this
Well,
desperation of a drowning man or
I think I need to help you out of this. Sorry about that. I thought I was on mute. Just saying goodbye to my son. Sorry. Yeah, do you want this with the desperation of a drowning man? And if you are desperate, jump on in. I also recommend getting through this work quickly. You know, a lot of people die in this program. A lot of people go crazy, getting coddled to death, hugged to death, sponsored to death. And no one means bad. Everybody means well. Just some people have trouble following instructions, you know, like it used to say on your report card. Follows instructions. You can fail math, you could fail English, you could fail reading composition. You cannot fail follows instructions. That's the only thing you got to be good at this program. Get through it quickly. Don't worry, it doesn't have to be self-flagellation. Your sponsor does not have to be your best friend. Also, I'm going to plug that one in. My kind of grand sponsor, Cameron D, who wrote the workbook, says, if you really love your sponsor and you really click, run. I love that one. A sponsor is just your broker to get to G-O-D. I'm just helping. Now, if you get along and it's fun to talk, I mean, that's good because you don't want to be like, oh man, I got this lunatic I got to talk to this morning, right? Because we're all crazy. We addicts are undisciplined. You know, we all are lunatics. Don't be offended. I am one too. But it's like, you don't want to be like looking at their number on the caller ID and be like, oh, brother, you know, like, you know, my sponsee called me at 8:10 every morning. I'm like, you know, I like her. She's a good person. Like, I want to help her. She's isolating. She's scrolling away her life. She's Netflixing. She's in an anon. Like, she's awesome. Like, you know, I hope she wants to save herself because it would be nice to be able to broker that. But that's it. Just a broker, you know? And the only commission we get is our sobriety, right? Which is a big deal. A big deal. I'm not active on all these chats. I do lead these meetings, but my sobriety depends on that. Ollie, tell us a little bit about, just before you pray us out, the service you do. What do you do to ensure your spiritual condition day to day?
Yeah, so you know that part of the triangle service, really serving God is working with others. It's carrying this message. You know, it's being of service in other areas of my life outside of the program. You know, it's all good and well being of service in meetings, but not being useful in the outside world, in the kind of real world, if you want to call it that. You I had a home group from early on, as I spoke about. I got service. I was secretary for that meeting. And you know what? There was a hell of a lot of growth in that role. And again, relating it back to step 3, people weren't doing what I wanted. I was there was a bit of an issue with maybe other people trying to kind of dictate the meeting and not being trusted servants of God. But I was guilty of that as well. But I have very recently come away from that situation. But I've also set up a new meeting which is due to start in the new year, and I'm secretary for that meeting. And my service commitment is so important. As I said, I've come from a place of deep-seated selfishness and self-centeredness. My first sponsor, first time around, used to talk of, he was really keen on me getting some service, and I thought, I'm not making tea and coffee for anyone. I only make tea and coffee for one person, and that's me. And I couldn't see why being of service was important, but it's an integral part of my recovery now. And also what it does, it gives me skills and teaches me practices that I can take out into the world and into jobs and things like that.
Yes. My sponsor, I'm sorry to jump in all excited. My sponsor just said to me this morning, I have people issues. I have friend issues. I get awkward. And that's just what you're saying. We all have people issues. We all are, and I was just like, yeah, service, right? Service is the cure to that. Right. And today, where you don't want to make tea or coffee, it's like if I'm at a party or I'm in a work setting and I'm feeling weird or shaky, as the big book says, I'll ask you if you would like a Diet Coke and I'll pour it for you. Today's service is our key, right? Wouldn't you agree with that, Ollie? Like, today's service is my solution. If I'm at a wedding and I'm feeling like, oh, I'm fat, oh, everybody's looking prettier than I am, oh, I need to do my eyebrows, whatever, translate it into your own language. Or I'm at a work setting and I'm feeling that low self-esteem that the devilments creep in, I'll be like, okay, girl, time to get up and give everybody a slice of pizza or whatever, Yeah.
The less time I'm thinking about myself, the better.
Amazing. So with that, we'll turn our thoughts to our higher power. Thank you, Ollie. You were awesome. You should share more. You are inspiring. Picture of honesty, open-mindedness, willingness, and humility. Please pray us out. Thank you, everybody, for joining us.
Yeah, I chose the Lord's Prayer as my closing prayer. I will just have a quick moment of silence. The Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
You guys rock. Thanks for making the world a better place. Spread your light, people. Lots of love. Bye-bye.
I've seen stars fall from above. I've fallen in and out of love. I've been high and I've been low. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. I've seen a boy become a man. He got lost without a plan. He's so far away from home. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me. Your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know can't do this on my own. I'm looking for the words to say. You make the world a better place, and I can call that place my home. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me, your touch is grinding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. So let me see just what you need to set you free, so we can be. I saw stars fall from above. I fell in and out of love. I got high and I fell low. But now I know that I just can't do this on my own. No, I just can't do this on my own. I just can't do this on my own.